Good morning, afternoon, hello, how are you? We are again here with the webinars, okay, here in Guayaquil, Ecuador, and there we have some friends from different parts of the world, okay? Hello, I send my greetings to Peru, Mexico, and the big community of Latin American teachers who follow the webinars. Welcome. And I send my greetings to Mr. Carlo Campodonico, who is our special guest today, with a very interesting topic, and I have the honor to introduce him before. Okay, webinars, are open. This is your house. You can come here. You feel comfortable, and you can learn from this session. So until the end, you can ask your questions. Okay, so we are going to respect Mr. Carlo time, and when he is going to introduce and explain us all the information that he prefers. So we're going to wait until the last part of the presentation, and I can read you your questions. So I think that's the way that we are going to organize. No, Mr. Carlo, how are you? Thanks for coming. How is it going in Canada?
Thank you so much, Mr. Andres, for your kind welcoming and kind words. It's great in Canada. However, I could say that I'm a little bit saddened because we have lost one of our figures and icons in Canada is Queen Elizabeth. She passed away a couple of days ago, so we are very saddened, and we hope that that time can heal how we're feeling at the moment. We're mourning for her loss, and it's a repairable loss that we have passed that has happened to Canadians and also to all the Commonwealth countries. Beside that, it's an okay day today here in Canada, in Vancouver, where I'm located in the West Coast. It's actually right now 8:13 a.m. And well, I'm pleased to be here and hope that I can help elicit and keep carrying on the research for Ecuadorian teachers. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a very sad news when they announced on the TV when Miss Elizabeth passed away. So I immediately turned on the TV and I watched the news. Even I don't remember in the Ecuadorian channel, in the Ecuadorian TV, they presented some images when Charles, the Prince Charles, visited Ecuador. I don't remember again. I think it was a decade ago. They came to Quito and they also traveled to Galapagos, and they were exploring. So we had a warm welcome when they came that time. So we know what the importance of what Elizabeth represented in Buckingham Palace, in the United Kingdom, and also in the Commonwealth countries, where English is spoken. So maybe we feel so sad about that. So we are sympathetic with that situation. All right. So hello again, teachers, and we're going to start first. Mr. Carlo Campodonica, our special guest today. Well, let me tell you that he's also a professor, that he has the instruction. He had a study in Casa Grande that he mentioned. We had many, many things in common, ideas to develop, volunteering ideas to support English teachers, training camp that the university prepared. So he was in the last training camp in Casa Grande, so he knows what I'm referring. So I'm absolutely convinced that we are going to have a very nice, and we're going to learn from this presentation. Mr. Carlos, in this moment, I'm going to help you with your slides. Okay, I'm going to make it happen. So try it now, Mr. Carlos. You can start.
Thank you so much, Professor Andres. All right, so thank you everyone for joining this webinar today. It's a pleasure for me to be sharing with you about one of my many different, I will say, interests, which is education. One of them is about talking the effects of self-assessment in speaking on C1 level multicultural students. You might be saying, why do we have to focus on C1 level students? Well, to the best of my knowledge and to research, we know that In Ecuador, at the moment, we are required for until secondary education, which means high school, that students achieve a B1 level up to a B2 level, depending on where are we talking about in the educational system. It could be in the public system or in the private system. However, that's not enough in order for students to be able to reach their academic levels or probably start attaining for other in international jobs or participating in the global village, which is what we call it today. Thanks to globalization, we are all connected because of the internet. So C1 level students are particular a niche of students which are sometimes neglected in the educational system because there is there are no courses, there is no a follow-up with these students that would like to keep up and probably have this curiosity, a sparkling curiosity to keep learning English, for instance. But we can also refer later on that this study can be carried out in any other languages. So one of the motives and one of the main problems that actually encouraged me to carry out this research was about UNESCO's objective is to preserve the intangible cultural heritage of nations. So in order to keep talking about what is the intangible cultural heritage, I will play for you a video. So Mr. Andres, let me know if you can hear the video, just in case.
I think color, and I think community, and I think noise.
Cultura, tradiciones, raíces y esencias.
When I hear intangible cultural heritage, I think about skills, knowledge, customs, ideas.
Culture, ancestry, and what came before.
Definitely memory, flexibility, very creative.
Family, identity, courage, strength, resilience.
Oneness, we talk about traditions, we talk about values, and we talk about things that connect to people, things that relate to us, things that we can look back as our heritage and as our culture.
You have dancing and you have music, and it's always lively. So lively is definitely at the core of living heritage.
So that was a short video talking about what is intangible cultural heritage. As you saw, intangible cultural heritage is everything that we believe that are, for instance, our culture, that our food, our traditions, and how can we preserve that? So we're going to talk about that later on. Okay, keep remembering on that. So about the literature review about the effects of self-assessment case study on multicultural Ecuadorian students, I base my research on different on different concepts and different I will say research paper from journals. For instance, the Canadian Journal of Action Research. Also, I took about a case study. Why a case study? Because since on the statistical model that I developed during my innovation process with 5 participants that I was able to analyze them, I was not the results were unstable. So the statistical model that was represented from the quantitative data that I collected during the innovation process, that it was for 4 weeks. However, it extended up to 4 months because of the COVID-19 pandemic. I was not able to analyze them as a group, however, as a single subject. And also it's an educational action research because I was highly involved during the innovation process with my students. I was available 24/7 for them if they have any questions. So that was about my literature review. I also would like to say that I based it on a backward design principles, which means that you have to plan your lesson planning beforehand, and you have to devote time in order to do so. And also you have to develop a transfer goal, some objective, you have to develop a checklist, a rubric. And once you have developed all of those tools, you're able to to help your students achieve what they would like to attain at the end of the unit innovation. I also have on this slide, as you can see on the bottom side on the left corner, where we have Karen Whitby, which is also one of the main persons that has developed education for Universidad Casagrande. She's highly knowledgeable, and she also have carried out the master's degrees for education in specifics for the English program at Universidad Casagrande, and also Dr. Margot Willard, who also make me realize what is making the learning stick. And because the students may learn from us our linguistics, our pronunciation, the way that we communicate. So but however, at the end of the day, our students are able to walk the talk. So that's something that I will like to talk later. I base also my innovation on self-assessment, because that's one of the many tools that we can apply with our students. Kara Hilser is a professor emeritus from Ontario Institute of Studies in Education, and she said that a self-evaluation will help our students to achieve self-judgment, self-confidence at the very end. It will talk about Krashen, if we remember about Krashen, when he expressed about the inner filter and the affective filter and the monitor hypothesis. Thanks to self-assessment, because it's self-regulatory for students when they practice their English language, and they will be able to acquire at the end self-confidence. Based on that, I also talk about Bell Hooks. Bell Hooks is a widely recognized and also bestseller, New York bestseller educator. She passed away, unfortunately. However, Bell Hooks stated that in order to have an engaged pedagogy, we need to emphasize the well-being through integrated, holistic, and progressive education. But how can we do holistic and progressive education? Is by actually having theories of education, like Osubel, we have Vygotsky, we have Piaget, Brunner, Perkins and Blythe. We have so many pedagogists that will help us, our students, attain the level of English that they would like at the end by the meaningful learning theory. You will say, like, why did I did a 1 minute sustained monologue for my students? Because when we go and we look into the Cambridge standardized English test, there is a section which states, I would like to show it you in here, that students that would like to attain the C1 level of speaking, they are able to have a 1 minute long-term sustained monologue. So they're able to speak clearly with clear pronunciation, different topics that are sometimes controversial or can be hostile even for the participant or the candidate that are giving the C1 English standardized tests, which are for advanced English learners. So on that, talking about a sustained monologue describing experience, they are able to give a clear ideas and description on complex topics, which, for instance, for my unit innovation, I created a 1 minute sustained monologue on the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic on my students' specific community. So that's, for instance, a complex topic, talking about COVID-19 pandemic for my own research project. However, you will also know that, let's say, talking about abortion or divorce or so many complex topics that students need to have an opinion, that's considered to be a C1 level, because we're not talking about topics that are just factuals, like the weather, or like let's talk about some topics that are not going to sparkle that that disagreement among participants, right? So that's what is basically a C1 level. So this is me having my different sessions asynchronously with my students, and we met via Zoom. We practice about self-assessment with a checklist and a rubric, and this is like the roadmap. So this is a map that we wanted to attain with my lesson planning, but based on backward design principles. So for instance, I want to show one of my participants, and I'm going to share with you what a C1 level looks like. Okay, hold on a minute. Let me share my sound.
From one of the effects that are happening right now in my community from COVID-19 are outbreaks, because there's no social distancing. People are not wearing PPE anymore, which is protective, a mask or anything like that. And of course, super spread events like concerts and festivals and Disney World. A lot of people not taking, the necessary steps to keep themselves safe. But one big recommendation, and that is safe and effective, is vaccination. Vaccinate yourself. It prevents these outbreaks and keeps the community safe.
As you can see, the C1 level participants, they're able to just come from their own mind and unable to do a 1 minute sustained monologue. So in that way, I will say that we have different scrimmage opportunities, formative assessments, in order to provide the optimal educational settings for them to commit errors, make mistakes, and improve their English learning process in talking about the linguistics part. So in my research, I have an independent variable, which was speaking. The dependent variable was self-assessment, and I have 2 research questions, which was, what is the effects of self-assessment in C1 English level Ecuadorian multicultural students speaking production? And the second research question was, what are the students' perspective regarding their persuasive speaking skills after implementation? So for the first research question, I applied quantitative analysis. And on the research question number 2, I applied qualitative analysis, which was carried out via an interview question, which has which was composed of 3 different questions, the interview question set, and also like the rubric and the like the checklist. They were vetted, and they were approved by an expert from Universidad Casa Grande in this case. That's the rubric. The rubric was composed of a highly descriptive rubric, was composed of organization, lexical resource, discourse management, pronunciation. And as you can notice here, from my students, that they were all of them, they were Ecuadorian online students from my own teaching private practice. They range in between the ages of 35 up to 55 years old. They were, some of them consider themselves part of the multicultural background of the Ecuadorian nations that we have at the moment. And you can see here that the p-value was of 0.016, meaning that my null hypothesis was, I have some evidence to say, like, I could support my null hypothesis. So over here, you will have, you can see here are the p-values of the of my rubric. And you can see that on the organization, they are higher, the p-value are high, the degrees of freedom are also highly dispersed. But as you can notice here, pronunciation was one of the main descriptors that my students need to improve in the future. So that's one of my other recommendations in research, is that Ecuadorian teachers can further the research based on pronunciation. So before the pre-test, I have that my students have on average at 2.45 English level, which was basically a B2 level of talking about speaking skills. However, later on, after the 4 weeks innovation, however, in between, I can say in average took me 4 months because of the COVID-19 pandemic. People got sick or they got unemployed. So they were not able to attain and have a sustained, I would say, attendance for my classes. I will have to adapt and readapt my lesson planning. However, we attained it at the end, as you can see. One point of difference from the test. So the students actually passed based on the C1 CEFR English standards. So thanks to the innovation applied on this action research question number 2 We have the deposit. These are examples of the questions from across the different participants. And you will see here, for example, question number 1, I will read out loud to all of you attending. It says, how do you improve in speaking after this implementation? And one of the participant 4, I mean, all of my participants are aleatory label. There is no, doesn't mean that participant number 4 had a lower, I will say a lower performance. Numbers are random, okay? The participant 4 stated, before this research, I felt that my English was already good. However, due to the videos I recorded, I realized the parts of my speech that needed improvement. I feel motivated and decided to correct and improve my speech. Question number 2 was, what were your limitations on self-assessment during the implementation? And usually they are not knowing until when they have to be self-assessed. Probably they also felt a bit confused because they didn't know how to use self-assessment. And also, as they noticed, I also got COVID-19 during this research, which stopped my learning. So that's why the teacher has to be that person that, using Vygotsky theories of pedagogy of education, can help the students achieve and see what the teacher is seeing, right? So that's why it's important how the teacher can support the students to attain that English level. Then we have question number 3. What are your perspectives regarding your persuasive speaking skills? Because as we mentioned before, C1 level students are able to have these hostile, sometimes, conversations and being able to sustain and defend their point of view with education and eloquency and syntax and vocabulary and sustained persuasive speech. So as they say, now I can properly describe my experience with COVID-19 using the correct words. Also, now I have more confidence in what is expected at the level C1, and I feel that I can practice self-assessment in the future in preparation for the C1 and C2 Cambridge exams. As a conclusion from my action research, I will say that I would like more teachers to keep developing more information about how C1 level students learn. So we can develop more about this topic on the Ecuadorian educational field through action research. So that will be one of my recommendations. My second recommendation is to, if we can safeguard, it means to protect. If we can protect our culture, and also through video recording, through self-assessment for our students, and also include a culture in our curriculum, in our lesson planning, so we can allow our students to know about their roots, saber acerca de sus raíces culturales, the students. So that's what we need to do. And that reminds me, when I was a little kid back in elementary school, you will see here a picture. I remember that my mother, she was a seamstress, era una costurera. My mom is a seamstress and a nurse, costurera y enfermera. She designed this attire for me, that special costume that I wore during one of the celebrations at school. And I knew about what it was to be a Montubio, right? What is an amorfino, have to some move dances. So learning English means I am aware of who I am through culture, and also I'm able to speak and tell to the world what is my culture about. I'm from Ecuador, South America. I was born, I'm Ecuadorian born and raised, who lives in Canada. However, I want to share with the world about my culture. And that's what we need to do with our students. So students are self-aware of their roots. And that's part of the UNESCO Conventions of Safeguarding of Intangible Cultural Heritage statements. Finally, I would like to show you a video, okay, that I hope that you will enjoy as I do.
My childhood memories, the ones that stick out most, would be playing around these really ancient monuments.
it's a legend, you know. You see pictures of the Grand Canyon. You see
terracotta. It was built by the first Chinese emperor Qin Shi Huang.
There's something they call yodeln. I can't do that. It's just a funny voice they do. I don't know. I cannot do that.
There's something called the Charminar in old city of Hyderabad, and
you have the sun here, which means light up the darkness. Light up the darkness, because in my country also we have a lot of things about like spirits.
Malambo. Guys do one thing and girls we do another things. We dance in couples and girls we used to do like this and we dance in a way and another.
I have been there. Oh my God.
By that time it was the empires, the invaders who came and left and went, and Baalbek stayed.
The statue, just the same as the human being, the soldier, the horse, the chariot.
You're sitting there on the canyon and literally like your feet are dangling. You get all of these incredible colors on the canyon and bouncing off the canyon. There's nothing that can prepare you for that.
it's a structure that every Hyderabadi of every thread is proud to say that's a monument that symbolizes the city.
I don't know if you heard about Mami Wata, but you can look up. It's like a big god in the river that protects us and whatever.
All this, yani, it makes Baalbek not a Roman piece or a Greek piece or a Lebanese piece. It makes a place, a site where all the world is there.
قلعة حلب لما فتت علي أول مرة ففتنا على قاعة العرش اللي كان يقعد فيها صلاح الدين. إنه كنت عم ضل نق بالمعلمة تبعنا لأنه كنا رايحين مع مدرسة إنه بدي أروح أقعد هونيك بدي أروح أقعد هونيك وكذا، فهي ما تخليني. هربت وكنت رح أوصل إنه خلص شفت الحلم قدامي رح يتحقق إنه حفوت حقعد، فبيلقطني السكيورتي إنه
I couldn't accept it.
I can't imagine the United States of America without the Grand Canyon. The idea that that would not be there, I mean,
If they said no, there's no more that thing, I mean, it will be a shock, it will be sad.
It would be violence. I would feel violated.
I would think I'm in the wrong movie.
If we destroy the past, that means we will destroy the present and no future.
I can't imagine Lebanon without Baalbek. It exists. It will always be there, I hope.
إنه أنت تشوف تاريخك، تشوف الأماكن الحلوة اللي كنت بتحبها، اللي كنت تزورها، اللي كنت عايش فيها، كلها صارت ولا شيء، ما عادت موجودة. يعني هو صعب بس بدنا نصلحه. الأطفال لازم يعرفوا شو الحضارات اللي طلعت عنا شو هي، بيعطيهم دافع كتير قوي إنه نحن بدنا نرجع نعمر هالبلد.
Well, so that was the video about why do we need to safeguard our intangible cultural heritage. For instance, in Ecuador, an intangible cultural heritage is the sounds of la marimba, which is this type of look of instrument like a xylophone, right, that they play in Esmeraldas. That will be part of our intangible cultural heritage of our people. For instance, amorfinos are also an intangible cultural heritage of our coast people living in the coast of the Ecuadorian shorelines. So these amorfinos are short verses of poetry that our people from the nearby, close by the shores, they're able to pronounce and say this sort of poetry with verses to people, and sometimes encloses a lot of knowledge and proverbs about the people who live from these specific towns. Another part of our intangible cultural heritage will be the shamanic ways of our people from the Amazon and their ancestry and their traditions, and also their medicine. And another part will be like the Panama hat, sombrero de paja toquilla, which is also part of our intangible cultural heritage of our people. So why not our students start talking about that in English with self-recording and share it to the world? So if you want to know more about my my thesis research that I did with Universidad Casa Grande, you can access it in the digital repository. In Universidad Casa Grande, you just type down my name or last name and you will find it if you would like to read more about it. And also I'm presenting on TESOL Florida 2022 on October. I will encourage you to participate. It's online. And well, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Andres, for having me today. And it has been a pleasure. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Well, I was paying attention to your case study. Thank you so much, and Mr. Carlo, because this is you have done action research, so it means that you are involved in qualitative and quantitative study. So you involve different variables. And I consider the culture, that component is basic. So especially for non-native speakers. Ecuadorians were not native speakers, so it's necessary that we don't leave behind our culture, even though we are learning a second language, okay, from instructions and since we are studying in school. But it's necessary, for example, in the highlands or in the coast region, to include that I said before in the curriculum, to involve the culture, that element, which is very important. So even if you are from Ecuador, you are from Peru, we are Latin America, the component of the culture is very important, because that's our origin, that made us to feel proud, and also the ego of the language also. So I don't know if someone else would like to make a comment or say something about this wonderful case study. Maybe Edward, you would like to say something?
Yes.
You asked one question in the chat. Could you repeat your question, please?
Sure.
Hold on. Sergio, are you going to go first?
Yes.
Go first. Go on.
Yeah, no, go ahead, Sergio. Go ahead.
Okay, Sergio, you're first, and then Edward.
Okay, I like the way he explained the methodology he was using. Also, I like the way he made it. He made a few research about the education, and I really enjoyed it. That's the point. It changes the way I like it to teach and get better ideas of how we can introduce our students to help them to like English. That's what the point that I like to make it.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sergio, for your kind words about our expositor. And Mr. Edward.
Well, my question for Carlo was about cultural intelligence. If cultural intelligence has something to do with today's presentation, that was my question for you.
Yes, of course. It can be also related to culture, as you mentioned, cultural intelligence. I will also mention it as cultural competence. That's how in many different research you will find more about it. Yeah, cultural competence is when the students are able to assess different scenarios and know how to navigate, to know, and to look into different nuances that culture has, because culture is like a big elephant that we have in the room, right? Everyone would like to everyone would like to touch that elephant, but from different parts of the world. And that craftsmanship that people develop, let's say people from India, they have some other rituals for when they mourn people that passed away. And on the other hand, I know like in Honduras, in Central America, people used to dance on top of the grave of the people who passed away, of the beloved ones. So being cultural competent, because some people will say, oh, in my culture, we don't do that. I might get offended.
Absolutely.
Right? But we have to have an open mind. So that means to be, like you mentioned, this cultural intelligence and also cultural competency that English teachers needs to know when they explore. Let's say today we're gonna teach about New York, or we're gonna teach about the UK. So you have to read maybe or listen to some videos, being able to also explain to the students, hey, they're laughing about that because that's okay in that culture.
It's accepted in their culture.
That's correct. So what is accepted in one culture might not be accepted in mine. However, I need to be respectful about
Tolerant to it.
and tolerant, yeah. And a C1 level in the English tests, they'll come with a variety of topics, a big array of topics that you will have to defend with persuasion, sustained speech, pronunciation, discourse management, lexical resource, and enunciation, morphology, phonetics. So in that way, you have to defend your sustained speech in the standardized C1 level, right? So what I'm trying to say is get your students used to be uncomfortable. Hagan a sus estudiantes
out of the comfort zone,
out of the comfort zone.
that bubble in which they're living,
we need to
and which
make
a lot of candidates they reach this level. So for them, once they reach the B2 level, Carlo, it's kind of like they've made a gigantic accomplishment in their life. But what they don't know is that you have the C1 and you have the C2. And in reality, the C1 is actually the most difficult of them all, because C2 is basically, what are you doing? You're applying what you have acquired from A1. So from A1 to B1 is when you acquire the language, the use of English. So from B2 to C2, you're applying it. So a lot of people, when they struggle a lot, like my students are struggling a lot with the listening part of the exam, so if maybe you could help me now with some strategies or tips on the listening part, because like 65% of them are struggling. It's not so much about the reading and use of English part, in which you have reading comprehension and it's the listening part. So how can I like help them or assist them or like in that particular part of the exam?
The best way that you can help your students with the listening part of section is make them have, try to know each individual best way of what are their interests. What are, for instance, I have a student A, a student B, a student C, and I feel that they are not giving their best in their listening comprehension. However, I know that student A loves knowing about, let's say, comics, about Spider-Man, Superman. Some teacher says, oh no, I cannot tolerate to have comics in my class, or I cannot tolerate for them to, let's say, talk about their favorite video games. But why don't you tell them, hey, I want that your next, because I want to help him with some marks, extra points, or maybe remedial exams, remediales, because we cannot have any student behind. No podemos dejar a ningún estudiante en el relegado en el proceso de educación. Like we cannot.
That's true. That's
right?
true. That's
We
true.
need
Absolutely.
to every student. We cannot leave behind any student in our in the teaching process. That's what education means. So go for their interest and make them realize, hey, if you know about, if you can tell me about the topic, if you listen more about Spider-Man, you will get better at your pronunciation and also at talking about your favorite topic. People love to talk about what they love, about tell me about you, tell me what you love, right? But if we go everyone, if we say like, okay, everyone is gonna talk about let's say drills, like audio lingual drills, like, hi, my name is Carlo, good morning, good afternoon. If it's gonna be a set conversation, like the as I said, like all the audio linguistic drills that we're having, it's not gonna make any impact on the students long term.
Maybe in a short term, yes, they'll be able to memorize, and then they'll just pass the exam. But then in 3 or 6 months from taking the exam, from sitting the exam, everyone, this is the big difference between learning something and acquiring. I've been saying this, Carlo, and everyone for the past 15 years. The difference between learning something, so we have this thing about learning languages. It's kind of like a marketing strategy, but if you really look into it deeply, here's question: second language acquisition. So we are acquiring. The moment that you acquire something, and this goes for everyone, the moment that you acquire something, it stays with you, and you don't have to repeat the same process over and over again. When you learn something, it's something temporal. Now, I could be completely errant, wrong, Carlo, and anybody who's here, if that's the case, just let me know. But as far as the years that I've been doing, as far as what I've done with my students, for me, acquiring a language is more meaningful. But of course, here's another question that I have for you, Carlo, relating to your presentation. So fluency over accuracy, because this is like the question that we have as language teachers every single day in a non-native countries in which we conduct our classes. Fluency over accuracy? But should we focus more on fluency and not so much on accuracy, or should we go for accuracy and not worry so much about fluency? This is a question I wanted to ask you, like from the get-go.
You know what? That's actually a great point that you are bringing up for discussion. And fluency and accuracy, they're not enemies. They are actually best friends. I think like they have to go hand by hand, one to each other. And we also need to be mindful that each of our students are gonna bloom like a flower or like a rose at different stages. The educational system sometimes make us believe that our students will have the same knowledge, or will be able to accommodate or speak or produce in writing or speaking at the same time. But we need to be mindful that each of our students has a different scenario. Sometimes also the affective filter, like if our students have problems at home, either passing through domestic violence, violencia doméstica, or if they're famine or hunger, hambruna or non comido, so they're not able to perform with the English language level, because they will have to nourish themselves in order to being able to speak. So English teachers, we are not only a language person. We're not like a dictionary that, hey teacher, help me say this word in English. We're not a human dictionary or translator.
Encyclopedia.
We are not an encyclopedia. Thank you so much for that word. Yeah, so we are teachers, educators that will elevate our students.
Finally. Now we're speaking the same language. Now we're speaking the same language. There you go. Now it's really fruitful to have someone who uses the correct terms, because we have educators. Well, there's educators, there's teachers, and there are professors. So there's a clear difference between to be a professor, to be a teacher, to be an instructor, and of course to be an educator. And as an educator, the idea is to educate our students through different alternatives. And yes, you were talking about the remedial exams. If we consider ourselves and passionate about what we do, none of our students should fail. So we should we have thousands of strategies and methodologies and techniques to use to accommodate to each one of our students' tone, shade, and color. So their learning styles. This is the way I see it, Carlo. This is Edward Espinosa who's saying this. So that this is the way I see it. You know, in my case, you're the opposite. So you were born in I think in Manabi, right? The province of Manabi.
Province of Manabi. Sorry, about what?
Were you born in?
I was born in Guayaquil, Ecuador.
In Guayaquil.
Yeah.
All right.
Guayaquil.
My bad.
No worries.
In my case, I was born and raised in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. So I'm a Canadian.
You're a Canadian. I can see
living
the accent now.
who's living in Ecuador. So it's like the reverse.
Wow, we have
story of yours.
Wow, that's awesome.
Believe me, I've been in the educational field since 2001. So it's been a very, very long road. So we're speaking the same language here. It's Andres. Thank you so much for bringing such a wonderful person, you know, and giving this really fantastic
thank you so
presentation.
much.
So
it's been amazing.
That's
Wonderful.
my pleasure, Edward, because you contributed with your ideas, with the comments you make. So, and that's a little, and that's very good because we also create like a small debate in the chat, no? Well, it's not a debate, but we open more opportunities for people to make their comments about it. So I just want to read one of them. Mr. Percy, he says that, yeah, according to what I learned from British Council and Cambridge University, both for good and accuracy is a little more important than fluency. Yeah, so both are important, no, because they are integrated in the linguistic component. No, for example, in the international exam, when you find the rubric, you will find it. No, when you assess, no, when you have feedback, you will find it accurately. No, so and qualitative, you have a different standard. No, you have different standards. For example, from less and when the student go from when they have a minority of level and then they improve from 1 to 5. So this is quantitative. Qualitative is when you explain the rubric, you know, when you explain what a student need to improve or the student have done before. Any other comments, please? Mr. Carranza, welcome. How are you?
Thank you very much. I'm fine. Good morning, everybody here.
morning.
I am very glad to be here this morning. I would say thank you to Mr. Carlo Campodonico. Very interesting topic. I myself consider or identified as Montubio also. And it was really interesting. My comment goes in this way. Most of the English teachers right now, we are fighting with the system for this of the categories and to enter or to go up to a new category or to enter to a master degree. We need the level B2. And I would say most of the English teachers, they left from the university or from some universities and they don't have the level B2. When I saw the ad for this lecture, you were saying about level C1, and I was like very, very good chance for me to be there to practice and to listen. It was very nice. So how long does it take according to you, because you have studied and you have I guess you have a doctorate, how long does it take for someone that hasn't left the country, hasn't gone to an English speaking country to get to the level C1? Is it possible? Because as I told you before, most of the English teachers here have some trouble getting the level B2. And most of the English teachers, maybe they haven't left the country. And that is why they haven't had this level that is really necessary to go up to in the next position, and even for teaching, because there is a criticism in this country that the English teachers don't get the level B2, and that's why we are very low in the position of during the statistics that some people made. I don't know. I guess most of these statistics are with some other. They just want other thing, probably more commercial than in the real educational field. But is it possible for someone that hasn't left the country to get a C1? Can we one day be competitive? And the last question, is it possible to unite all the English teachers in one feast so we can be stronger as in other countries they are, association or federation? Because you are very young and you are a leader. Probably we can do it with someone like you. So thank you, Mister. I would like to hear your answers.
Thank you so much, Mr. Carranza.
Wow, there has been a lot of very nice words, but you know what? I want to
It's a
give those nice,
reflection.
yeah, great reflection. I want to give those reflections back to you guys, because you are the ones that are helping the students keep learning, engaged in the lesson planning, in during classes. I can talk about myself. I'm a person who is constantly learning, and I never gave up on my English level. So once I reached a certain level of English, I didn't say, okay, this is good enough for me now, right? Because if I become comfortable, then that means that I'm not gonna keep learning something else. So you have to be strict with yourself, I will say. Like, if you want to achieve a higher level of English, if nobody else provides you with those courses, or maybe because we tend to blame the teacher. Oh, it's the teacher's problem because he never give me enough practice or give me the vocabulary. No, I think it's back to us. And we as teachers, we are also students. We are permanent learners. We have to, yeah, and I think Edward is also agreeing with me, nodding his head. So yeah,
Yep,
we have to
that's
be
correct.
permanent learners. Now we have the democratization of education. That means that we have the internet. We can get there, look for your interests, right? What does interest you, Mr. Carlos Carranza? I don't know, maybe you are interested about politics or entertainment, or I don't know, science, biology. So for instance, one of my passions, another passions is business. Another passion is about the medical field. Here in Canada, I work for the health authority and I am an administrator in clinics. So I love the language that is spoken from doctors, social workers, counselors. I love reading about it, about the anatomy, physiology of the body, veins, catheters, IVs. So you see, nobody's telling me, Carlo, you need to learn about this vocabulary because you're going to use it at work. But it's because I am decided, I am determined to be strict with myself, with my own learning. And at the moment, I can say that I am a C2 level, English level of English. And I have acquired that English level. It has taken me so long, because I remember when I was in elementary school back in Ecuador, I had an English teacher who told me, this kid will never speak English. I had that type of teacher in my elementary school, right? She basically failed me as a student. She gave up on me. However, my sister, she never gave up on me. She's also an English teacher. She graduated from Universidad Laica in Guayaquil, and she applied the theories of English teaching back then with me to learn English. So you see, one teacher can give up on you, but We shouldn't be giving up on our students. So I hope that this will help you. And not only myself, you are also the leaders. Each of you are leaders in your own classroom. Each of you can allow your students to reach their level of English. So have that determination, that self-motivation, and use self-assessment. And I will highly recommend, I don't work for Universidad Casa Grande, like yo no trabajo en la Universidad Casa Grande, I do not work there. And during the COVID-19 pandemic, I took my master's in pedagogy from Universidad Casa Grande online, here from Canada. People told me, you're crazy. Why are you doing that? You're in Canada, that's an Ecuadorian university. But you know what? My passion is education, and I don't mind where I get my education from. And I know,
There you go.
right? You don't have
Wonderful.
to, you don't have to give up on your education. You don't have to give up on your learning. And from Universidad Casa Grande, I had wonderful teachers. Mr. Andres too. He had his master's degree from there. So he knows about the theories of education, about the pedagogies, about action research, about community language teaching, assessment. So keep reading, keep learning, keep writing essays. Fluency and accuracy will come in time. Eloquency, syntax, voice, tone, all of that. As a writer, if you like writing, write blogs, do videos, keep learning, keep mingling with people who are alike-minded. That's what I will say. Intrinsic motivation. Thank you so much, Mr. Andres. That's exactly the term. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Carlos Carranza, for your reflection, the question you made. And thanks, Mr. Carlos, for your very exact answer. Now, and thanks for you, dear teachers, for your comments, for the things that you have contributing in this. Well, in this last part, any other final comment that you would like to say? Well, as a reflection, Mr. Carlo, no? So I just want to add an extra thing because I think everything had been done. Okay, you have explained very well, and you also have responded all the participants' questions. Well, yeah, the intrinsic motivation, as I mentioned, as I gave a reference in the chat, is the one that I consider the vital, the most important, because it's the one that makes us move, to push, to go over, to improve ourselves every day. You know? So it is true that we call it the system. Now everybody complain about the system in the schools and the high schools that we know about it. But teachers, we also have to construct, to build up awareness and to be better every single day. And does not respond because I will have a higher salary. That's a different reason. No, this is a personal reason, a professional reason. I'm talking about motivation, self-motivation, to be better every single day. And that it doesn't cost any money because we have the resources for free. And, around the net, we can go ahead, we can find different resources. Even here, we can, in an English teachers community, we can distribute and share different resources for free. So naturally, we can become fast learners because the information changes rapidly. It is disruptive. So in teaching and learning, so there are things that we have to be constantly learning every day. So I think that we need to be aware of that fact that we can become fast learners. No, we don't have to stop. And you also said with Mr. Carlos, Edward, and Sergio when they participated as well. Thank you so much. Dear teachers, okay, before we are going to finish our program, I will ask you, please, you turn on your camera because we're going to have a last picture, no? So be happy right now. And we're going to have a big smile, okay?
And Carlo, Andres is like, okay, everybody, smile.
Kenny,
I
can see that
need to put this on my Facebook page.
It's okay.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, good. I got beers, so this beer's here. Smile.
All right.
We got Carlos smiling. Oh, there's Mayra too. Renato's lost in the shuffle.
Okay, if you want to paste on your official with any reason, you have to smile. Okay, everyone, please.
I'm just pulling your leg, brother. We
Yeah.
know me.
Okay. Okay, my dear teachers, professors, everybody, please go ahead. Go yes. We're going to smile. Okay, we say C1.
C1.
C1. C1. I see one person.
C1.
Yeah, C1. No, me too. With C1 because the sky is the limit and farther the sky would say. Okay.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely.
Have a wonderful day, my dear professors. Thank you so much for being here in this webinar. Remember that we are going to keep in touch, no? So in the WhatsApp groups, or we send you information on your emails, okay? Have a nice and wonderful day. Bye-bye, everybody, and thanks for coming.
Bye, take care.
Bye, everyone. Thank you so
Bye,
much.
everybody.
Thank you very much.